So, welcome, guys, to another episode of the Entrepreneur Bootcamp once again. So, today we have a very special guest, and we talked to Akeel for a little bit and got to know him. We became friends over a few things that we both like a little bit of traveling. We're both into building great things and creating things beyond, and expanding our boundaries. So Akil has been a person that has created multiple companies, and he has that drive that we always talk about in the show. He's one person that builds things out of nothing and creates value, and that's what this show is about today. And with that, I'll give the intro to Akil. So, Akil, how are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the show today, Enzo.
Awesome, awesome. So I know we were talking off camera about traveling, like going back and forth, and kind of the happiness of going places, but then again having a foundation to come back on.
Exactly. Yeah. So originally from Canada, and finally kind of found my foundation and home. I think I've been searching for the last 5, 6, 7 years since I last quit my job. I think 7 years ago, trying to find the right place for me, and I found it here now in Guadalajara, Mexico. I still love traveling, trying to see different places. Lived in Brazil, lived in Barcelona, kind of different places. But I find this kind of fits all the list, and still close enough to home that I can visit anytime.
Yeah, that's awesome. So exploring your options and kind of finding what feels home to everyone. It's always a driving force. And I'm glad that you're able
Mhm.
to find that. So
Well, it's just like business, right? I think when you're like entrepreneurs, shiny object syndrome, you're like trying to work on different things, e-commerce, then this comes up, affiliate site, so many different opportunities, and then finally you're like, this is the business I really like, this is what I enjoy, this is where I feel I can make the biggest impact, and this is where I really want to double down. And I think it's the same thing. You find it in a partner you want to be with, where you live, your house, the city you decide in, and then who you work, what you work on, right? So that's gonna, most of your time is gonna be where you are, who you work with, and then who you spend your life with. So I think those are super important factors. You have to take the time to learn, experiment, and then find what's best for you.
oh yeah, and definitely like getting to pick that is part of the freedom that comes with being an entrepreneur.
Exactly. And it's just like a job, right? People just say, hey, I'm going to pick the highest paying job or anything that comes my way. But I think you have to be selective. You have to find that filter. I think the filter is super important, and just find the right fit from like a cultural perspective. Do you like your boss, who you work with, your team? And then I think that's what I love about being an entrepreneur. You get to pick who you want to work with. If you don't like this person, hey, you don't have to work with them, right? You get to decide who you want to have a part of your team and part of your family.
And that's something I always talk about. So the most important thing is seeing what you value, like what do you value, and being able to be independent enough to go and seek that freedom. So part of this journey in the entrepreneurship is definitely the freedom. So
Mhm.
going for if it's this place, or I pick this spouse, I pick this job, I pick this journey, and that's what people that's what motivates you, because most people that are watching this show, they want to change their circumstances. So
Mhm.
tell us about that. Like, did you have like any obstacles that you had to overcome in those circumstances to get to where you are?
Yeah, so I imagine a lot of people listening in probably have full time jobs. Is that probably accurate? And they're probably looking to become maybe entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so we have a lot of people that are becoming entrepreneurs. So they just
Mm,
started. So they're in the fence of how can I see further. Like, hey, I have the
okay.
possibility of moving to Guadalajara. I have the
Mm,
possibility of going to Barcelona. You see, so
mm.
did you face any obstacles, or what was the mindset that drove you to move?
So I always have that mindset. I think even since university, I was always an entrepreneur. Even during university, I started my own, recruitment firm at the time. That was like my first business, and I learned how to hire tech talent for startups all around the world. And then that's when I kind of got that bug of, I always knew I had to be an entrepreneur, even when I was studying engineering. So my background is actually I'm a petroleum engineer, turned entrepreneur. I worked in the white collar industry for several years, and then finally made that full time leap almost 7 years ago. But my passion was always around at that time how to increase my cash returns from the money I was making to kind of replace my income. Right. I think a lot of people listening is like, I need to figure out, I want to quit my job. I want to travel. I do want to do all these things, but hey, I've got bills to pay. I can't just pick up and leave. I have all these things. So of course, figuring out how to replace your income is kind of the first step, right? So you have to think of different creative
Yeah.
ways. put your money to work or put your time to work to leverage that. So personally, I started investing in kind of the stock market. I think when I was like 17 years old, I learned some, hard mistakes, made a lot of money, lost some money. But what I quickly learned after, 2 or 3 years of doing that was, you don't have control over so many factors when trying to pick stocks, right? Like a business, on the other
Mhm.
side of the world, some news or something comes up in the news, some turmoil, that can affect the stock. Here it could plummet overnight. You can lose 50% of your value, right? And B,
Mhm.
you're also competing with the guys on Wall Street, right? They have a lot more sophisticated technology. They have a lot more experience. They live and breathe, investing and trading and picking the stocks and analyzing it. So they're going to pick better deals than what you're trying to do. Somebody who's just coming in. That's when I actually came across the book called Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. So I think
Yes.
anybody listening, you probably read that. Like that's where you learn about
Yeah.
investing in cash generating assets, taking control of your income, building assets, your time, and how to leverage debt effectively, right? So at that time, I used some of the cash I had, I saved, and I invested in some real estate in Canada. So that's what I bought one. Then I bought the second one. But at that time, I was 25-year-old, and I was like, man, this is just too slow for me. Like I'm 25, I'm making a couple $100 in cash flow here, a couple $100 there, but like I need something quicker. Like I'm 25, I need to go today. I don't have time to wait. I want results fast. But with real estate, I still think it's a good investment. But I still have those properties, but I look at it more of like a long term, maybe like 20 years down the line. Of course, when I'm 40 years old, I'm going to be sitting on $1 million or so. Um, so that's when I invested in a physical business. So at that time, actually have a physical, franchise gym in Canada, and I have a partner managing that now. And that's where I
Mhm.
learned about recurring revenue, local marketing. What does lifetime value mean? What does churn mean? But I still felt the limitation of that model. Right, you're physically dependent to one location. So when people are thinking, should I open a local coffee shop or small brand around your business, and it's super expensive to scale. Right, every time you build one good gym. If you want to build the next one and you want to expand to the next area, you're spending $500,000 every single time. But still good. I would look at that maybe if real estate is 20 years, I would look at this maybe 5 or 10 years return. So it's still pretty good. And that's when I learned about digital and online businesses. And I actually bought my first online business from a brokerage called Empire Flippers. It was a affiliate website. I think I paid like $50,000 for it at the time. But I was hooked. That's when I learned about conversion rate optimization, SEO, how to hire and manage different writers and teams, remote teams, affiliate marketing, email marketing, all that good stuff. And that's when I quit my job and left. Right. So at that time, I actually left to Mexico at the time. And I joined a firm at that time, so I was doing it at a small scale, couple grand a month. And I found this other company called Wire Investors, where one of the founders was actually in Mexico. I met him, and they were doing bigger acquisitions. They were doing 7-figure acquisitions, and that's where I came in, got involved with them, with the partners, built that trust and showed my skill set with them. And they put me into a role of being the CEO of a company at the time called $99 Social. So, and once we made that acquisition, within 5 months, I was able to double the earnings of that company. So really kind of accelerated the growth. It did really well. Investors were happy, and then they helped me, move me to another role. Where I helped to grow another company based in California, and then they moved me into like group CEO of all the SaaS companies. And that's when about 2 years ago I left that group. I decided to focus on specifically building my own portfolio of SaaS companies, and I launched our own firm, Horizon Capital, where we really only focus on SaaS companies as our expertise.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
that's
Thank you.
that's like in short term, like the summary, the how impressive it is to understand that the exponentiality is in being available to everyone, and the best medium for it is going online, or taking out those physical barriers. You know.
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of my opportunities now that I meet all these big, partnerships and deals, and even my partner, all everything's been online. I always thought that having to be in one place is you're gonna have to find everything. You have to go to Silicon Valley, or you have to go to Austin, or some of the, New York. But I don't think that's the case these days. You can find everything online if you really want to.
And I know, in your summary, so you talked about Empire Flippers. I'm very familiar with that. So if people that are not listening here, Empire Flippers is somewhere you can go, and you can either buy an online business, you can buy FBA stores, you can buy anything that is an online business already running. Like most of these are, they might have a few things here and there, but they're definitely working businesses that are bringing in revenue. Is that right, Akil?
Exactly. And funny enough, when I started Horizon Capital, I think the goal was no longer, just focusing on building the cash flow like it was before. Yes, we still provide double or triple digit returns for our investors. Like we work with investors, they put in capital, and we manage bigger companies. But the focus is really about empowering entrepreneurship through a different path, right? So a lot of people listening in maybe think, hey, how do I start this company? I don't have the idea, right? That's always the sticking point. I don't know what my idea. What should
Yeah.
I do? Where should I focus my time? There's another path, right? There's these companies that have already been proven that there is a model here where people are paying and it's already making money. So that's like you're saving about 2 years of your time of trying to figure that out, 2 or 3 years of your time, and you're getting in at the right point where they've already figured a lot of the groundwork for you. So we like to come in as a partner with a lot of businesses who are maybe they've kind of plateaued. They don't know where to how to grow their company, or they really just focus on the product. Like there's a lot of product led founders, and then we really help them take their business to the next level to scale, and provide the financial resources at the right time if needed to find investors and whatnot.
And as speaking of that, I know we talked about previously about the book that I know that's a book you really love called Built to Sell.
Yeah.
So, how did that? What do you think were the key takeaways there that you used to, build these companies and taking them back to the track? So they're like on a pit stop lane, right? And they're
Mhm.
just, hey, I don't know what to do. Where's our direction? Maybe there isn't like a creative director. Maybe they're just focused on the product, but not the sales. So tell us
Mhm.
about that. Like, what is this book, and what did you learn? Was some of the key takeaways in building that? Into the lane, taking it back to the fast lane again.
So one thing we notice from founders, a lot of them who build a company, they want to have full control of the company, and they want to do everything, right? They don't like to release control. They don't feel confident to let people to do part of the work and take on some of the responsibilities. And then a lot of the business, when they go and try to sell it, is so dependent on them, and that's actually counterintuitive. People think that it's good. Hey, I have full control. This is my business. I should be able to do everything. But from an acquisition perspective, when you go to sell the company, or even from how investor would look at it, if it's so dependent on you, that's actually not the right way. So what people need to think about with that book is, from the beginning, you have to think, not later on when you think to sell. Even if you never decide to sell, it's how you think about structuring your company. Is like, okay, at one point, if I'm going to sell this company, how am I going to set up my business? And you have to think of it, okay, setting up the right systems, setting up the right processes, and setting up the right people, and having very clear direction, having clear responsibilities, setting up that org chart. I like that exercise where they say, create an org chart of where your company is now and where you'd want to be, and just start filling it in. Like, even if it's your name in all of those roles, like, yeah, I'm the VP of marketing, I am the VP of sales, I am the finance guy, I'm the CFO. Just put your name there and put exactly what you're doing. And at some point, you're going to find, okay, I need to replace this part. This is not worth my time. This is not the best use of my time. Let me find somebody who can replace me, and then slowly filling in all those roles. And then eventually you should be focusing on being the CEO and leading the vision and direction. And that should be your main focus.
This example, if I'm not mistaken, either
Mm.
I think it was either Bill Gates or Warren Buffett that did this specific thing for their business. I believe it was Bill Gates doing Microsoft. He said, I think they were about 10 people, and this story is online. So they were about 10 people, and he's like, "Well, we need to figure out who's gonna do what, who's gonna do this, who's gonna do sales, who's gonna do development," because he just wanted to write code, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
If I think it's Bill Gates, right? This story.
I think so. I mean, I think I've seen it several places, but I agree. I mean, you should be
Yes.
doing what you're really good at. Focus on that, and if you can outsource the rest, outsource it all. I mean, obviously, find people who are equal or at least better than what you can do it, and you can trust can
Hmm.
do it really well. But yeah, focus on and double down on what you're really good at, your highest value output, and do that. And it's an activity you can do is like, okay, put like an hourly rate around each activity. It's like, okay, if I was going to hire somebody to do this one thing, what is the most expensive role of what you're worth? So if your time is worth $1,000 an hour, you should be only spending your time on those things that are worth minimum at least $1,000 an hour. Anything less than
Hmm.
that, if you can find somebody who can do it for $5-10 an hour, you should be finding somebody to do that role, because you should be spending your time on the tasks that are going to bring you the most value.
I think for the people listening or watching this show, I think it's very important delegating. Not only understand that you have to delegate, but
Mhm.
how to hire the people to delegate to. And the way I always look at it is, I should always hire an expert. I should always hire an expert that knows a lot better than me. Like I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. I don't have to be this person that knows it all. So that's the first understanding. Then second is how to find the right people for the role, and then figuring out how to delegate, specifically what you're trying to accomplish, because these three things are so key here.
Exactly. I mean, that's the difference between, what's a good, have you read the book Good to Great by Jim Collins? Yeah, Jim Collins. Building your A team. That's like the pillar of how, a foundation of a good company. And that's where I focus a lot of my time, is making sure our team is right, finding the best people possible. And you don't want to rush. At the beginning, I made a lot of those mistakes where, I tried to fit people into roles, and or I tried to say, hey, okay, they kind of know a little bit, and I can train them into it.
Yep.
But you find that mistake, you just get more frustrated later on, where, like, look, you find people who are just really, really good at it. They've proven it, they've had the experience, they know what they're doing, and they show it to you, and then pay them well, and make sure they can do it better than a lot better than you, and you can go to them and trust them that they're going to do a good job.
So yeah, I mean, having the people to delegate to. Most people think, hey, I can hire my friend, because the first thing that small time entrepreneurs will try to do, hey, I can hire my friend, I can hire my buddy, or this person, they can breathe, they got a pulse, they can possibly do the job, but that's not correct.
And I'll tell you why. It makes sense, because typically when I'm looking to hire somebody, I think there's kind of two main things I look at. One is, integrity and trust, and then the second part is competence, right? So
Yes.
you already have one of those two that you already have, right? You have that relationship with them. You probably have a good cultural fit, and you have that trust. But all of a sudden, you think, hey, because they're my friend, they could probably be competent, and they seem kind of smart, and they could probably figure it out. But the hard part is, because you find somebody who's competent and you just meet them, it's kind of hard to have that trust. And trust, competence, you can verify through skills. You can run different tests, different simulations, look at their work they do, but the trust takes time, and that's the hard part, right? Like, you already have this trust with one person, and when you meet somebody, the only way you can verify if you can trust them, and they're they're they have integrity, is just through over time, and you have to spend at least 6 months or a year working with them and seeing them through different moments, and that's where you'll be able to verify. But yeah, it's a hard decision. I've made that mistake before, but yeah, I would always try to avoid friends or family, unless you know for sure that, like, they are literally the right person for the job, and they're gonna be
Yeah.
fantastic at it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think competence, that's a big one, because we think, I mean, we think that since we know it,
Hmm.
the other person will think the same. But it happens that you tell someone to do something that, if you haven't delegated correctly, they could do a completely different thing. So I think kind of investing in, if you're gonna grow a business, investing in figuring out how to delegate, first of all, how to hire it, but how to delegate, that's gonna drive your business, because these are the people that you will trust, to drive your business and put money in your pocket.
Exactly. And that's why I'm a big fan of creating SOPs. So it doesn't matter how small or big the role is, having those standard operating procedures, like just, a documentation, pull out a Google document. It doesn't have to be, fancy document. Step one, step two, step three. This is what you need to use. This is how you need to do it. Take screenshots, put them in, make it as simple as possible. That's the point of when you create these, processes. Like, somebody who has no idea, who's has never done this before, can come in, can just follow it, and even if the person who's doing it now was to leave tomorrow, you can easily find somebody who can take it over, and there'd be no be a smooth transition. And then using things like Trello. I love Trello and Slack, and just creating automations that things follow a nice process and system, and it's easy to follow. So I think think about using things like that. That'll make your life a lot easier.
And I think that, for people hearing this, more than likely, they will, because a lot of the people are going to strictly online. So, but using systems like, Trello, I mean, you can automate using Zapier, with
Mhm.
Trello. You could use, I mean, Asana, I mean, anything, you name it, right? You can do it. But these people, like, there's a big thing here with automation and online businesses that another business might not give you, right?
Mhm.
And I know you could probably say this. So an online business gives you some type of control and automation, more
Mhm.
powerful than than a physical business.
Not only that, your margin's a lot higher, right? You're not paying, all that rent and overhead and insurance and employees, local level employees you have to pay for. Margins are just a lot better, right? They can get, it's not unheard of in SaaS or even with content websites where you're getting, 75, 80%, even 90% margins, where it's almost entirely profit. So you have more cash to play with. Whereas when you have that rent that's taken up, say 50% of your revenue, that puts a lot of pressure on you on how you can operate and do and how you can scale. So yeah, I mean, you have a lot more control. The world is your oyster, so to speak. Your market is a lot bigger, right? Like when
Mm-hmm.
you're selling locally, let's say like a local gym, most of your clients are going to be like, let's say within a 5 kilometer radius, right? So that's it. You have like 20,000 people you can target. People are not going to drive more than 10 minutes or so, or 15 minutes to come to your gym. Whereas now, when you're selling online, you have lliterally thousands, depending on your market, if not millions of people who you can sell to and sell immediately.
And the tweaking that you could do for the marketing, so because your business might be, let's say that I mean, let's do an example. Like, let's say you're looking to invest, or in your business, you're looking to invest in a company that fits this criteria, but
Mhm.
going online, it gives you a larger pool of possible profitable opportunities where you can you know dig in, so to speak.
Exactly. I mean, you can see that with a lot of people, right? Who's selling like physical nice products. They have a little store and they're selling handbags or some kind of physical product, or some kind of skincare product, or whatever it is, bag or shoes. And then you can literally open an e-commerce store these days for super cheap. And then if you know how to market it, how to get it out there, do some good branding. People have stores, really good stores just on their Instagram account. And you don't need that much money that people think, right? Just really good marketing, really good branding, and show, listen to what people are saying, like, hey, I like this, but maybe change the color, or hey, would you try this? And just take that feedback. You get quicker feedback too, right? Versus like people waiting for people to come in, walk into your store, and people are, online, people have no filters, they say what their mind is, so you'll get the real feedback without issues.
Yeah, and the sales cycle there too. On online, it could be an extremely emotional purchase. It could be a very necessary purchase. But let's say, I just bought like I mean, I buy multiple courses online, but I think one of the ones I caused my memory was like a charisma course, something like that. So
Hmm.
like I watched this guy on YouTube. I'm like, well, I liked it, and as a consumer at that moment, I'm like, well, I feel like this will be great, beneficial, and no thoughts given. I just pay for the course, and that's how consumers online will react.
Exactly. I mean, that's the psychology of marketing, right? Is getting people to people
Yes.
always buy, emotionally. I mean, I think 90% of our decisions are emotionally based, other than like eating and sleep, where we eat and where we. But I mean, the car you
Oh yeah.
pick, the phone you have, to, it's all about status and symbols and how you feel around it, right? And that's the beauty of, when you're selling a product, is really not just okay, this is better than this, it's like, features and all that. You have to sell emotionally. You have to say, this is how it's going to make you feel, and this is why it's so much better, and how you're going to feel before and after, right? And that's really what sells. People want to envision what how their life will be after having it, right? Holding that phone and walking around and showing off, right?
Mhm.
This is like
Like the feeling
exactly.
that, like you always feel that if I don't get that, my life's just gonna be a little less. Like
Exactly, exactly.
so. I mean, that's kind of like that's a principle marketing there. And
Mm,
but Akil, I know, since you invest in businesses and you build great things. I wanted to take this conversation and kind of dive in here because people eventually,
mm,
once they grow their business, they start delegating. But there's a point where they're, I would say, like monitoring a lot, right? So
mhm,
they're like, so what's happening? So what would you say will be the next step after, let's say, the guy or someone, right,
mhm,
start an online business, they got like 10 employees, they're starting to grow, they listen to our thing, got inspired, and maybe 6 months from now they got 10 employees with an online business. How do they take that to the next level, as far as them, like what do they delegate, what kind of things change for them to, instead of going maybe a few million, maybe go to 10, 20, or something like that.
So I'm a big fan of using, KPIs and tracking everything. If you don't track it, you can't change it, so to speak, right? It's the
Mhm.
same with, going to the gym. If you're not tracking your progress, you don't know what's happening. If you're just looking at revenue, that's nice, but there's just so many little micro details, like, your calories, your macros, and all these things, and nutrients.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing in your business. You have to look at everything. I like to track it on a weekly basis, and have people who own certain KPI metrics, right? Like, so if it's marketing, they should have their own KPIs, and then on a weekly basis, okay, you're leading marketing. Okay, how many subscribers do we have? Okay, what's our engagement rate? Why is this low? What's our click through rate? What's our viewership count? Look at all these details, and then that'll give you answers. Within those data, you have to be able to look at all that data, and then I'll make kind of decisions based off that. So I think that's where it's important, because if you're just focusing on revenue, at some point you're like, okay, we just need more sales. But if you're saying, why are we not selling? Let's go deeper. Let's go a deeper level. Okay, how many leads are we getting? How much traffic are we getting? How many calls are we having per week? How many demos are we having? How many of those are converting? What's their conversion value? Why is their conversions only 5% or 10%? Okay, boom. Let's get on these phone calls. Let's hear these sales calls. Maybe that's why we're not selling as much. Now we're okay. Boom. Let's tweak this, this, and this. Now we're up from 5% up to 30%. All right, let's go back to the funnel. Let's increase the leads. And right now it's just a kind of tweaking game, and you got to keep doing that over and over, and then until you kind of scale at that point.
And I'll tell you, I'm glad you took it this direction. This was a big part of what made me see the potential, in my own business, and what made me make changes. So the analogy I always give it is, it's a car, right? It's got all its components. So you need to constantly, and I would say, if not daily or weekly, take your business to the shop and have a
Mm,
diagnostic. You go, okay, do we need an oil change? Do we need this? And that's very important, because then you will find the problem. It's not the bottom line at the end. That's already a result. That's too late then. But
exactly.
if you see that, hey, we're not selling 30 subscriptions this month. We sold 20. Whoa, but why? Did we increase last month the price? Did we change something? Like going, you have to backwards engineer it in order to really understand what's wrong. It could be as simple as maybe you went up $1, and your audience doesn't take it, or maybe you targeted a new marketing campaign, went this whole another route, and found a different set of an audience that does not identify with you.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
So I mean, I think this part is very important in kind of like growing as a business, and people, and I just want to clarify this, that even if you're, let's say you have 10 more, 20, 30 businesses later on, as these people grow as an entrepreneur, they have to understand that each business will have to go for a checkup. Just because you're doing well later on, it doesn't mean that this other business, it's fine. It might, one might need a checkup, like one might need an oil change, one might need this. So you have to be vigilant of, all the KPIs, like you said.
Exactly. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with also bringing on consultants. Like I like to bring on people from outside too, because sometimes you're so deep into your business, you're just so focused on the inside. It's hard to see it from an outside perspective, right? So having somebody, coach or mentor or, consultant or a partner that comes in can see from the outside, is like, okay, I can see this, this, and this happening. And then, start tracking things from a holistic level. And then based off that, you can see where the gaps are, right? Because sometimes you're like, no, this should be working, this should be working. Why are we're just focused on, narrowing what you only see, and you're blind to the other sides that other people can see better. So maybe, something to consider as well.
So, and Akil, it's funny you say that, because, like, us entrepreneurs, we're builders, right? Like,
Hmm.
we build
Hmm.
stuff. But when you're building something, sometimes you want to get your hands dirty, right?
Exactly.
But that's the moment where you lose the vision. So, like, what would you say? Like, what will be something that you do to reel back? So, would you say using the consultant? Is there something else that you use to reel back and step away from that thing you're doing, and evaluate again as a CEO your business?
So that's the problem, right? It's the exact same thing as like when you're so focused on day to day. That's why we
Mhm.
talked about trying to replace those roles where you're so focused on the inside, where you can step back and you can focus on your time on being on the outside, on the visionary, and then staying a step back. But sometimes it's just taking a break. Sometimes you're just grinding out. You're kind of burnt out. You're day in day out. Just take a day or two, take a breather. Go for meditation. Go to the gym and let it out, and then come back and things become more clear of why you're stuck on this problem. Or it's also talking to people. So I think building your network of other competent people. I think having mentors or just people you can bounce ideas off of, who are other entrepreneurs who are doing what you're doing or what you want to do. I think that's super important. So that when you're kind of stuck in this thing, you can go and speak to them, say, hey, like I'm stuck in this problem. They'll just remind you again. It's like, hey, okay, this is a small problem, but like, hey, do you remember why you did this? And having those people that you can talk to, I think is super valuable. That you should try to think of from the beginning.
Yeah, and I think they see you like some of these people are so valuable to us, and we don't see it. Like for me, it's my dad because he'll see
Mm,
me. If I'm working on a project that's new, and I'm so eager, and I'm like working, all the ideas, like putting things together, like doing get hiring more people just to get this project done. And he's like, hey, so he kind of pulls me back, and he's like, hey, Enzo, so this is kind of what's happening from another perspective. And he's always I would say like he's my consultant, but an external consulting company could do this as well and kind of pull you back and say, hey, wait a second, like just take it step by step, and this is maybe you could change this, and you could change that. And as an entrepreneur, I would say that for us to take everything in and then make the decision, because at the end of the day we're in control. However, we have to make sure that we put everything on the table before we make that final decision.
exactly. Exactly. It's like you said, driving the car, right? You're driving, full speed down the highway, and then you're having somebody beside you just be like, "Hey, hold on, this is actually, we actually have to slow down over here. Oh, we actually have to take a turn over there," because you were just like focused on, going 100 miles an hour. But somebody just like, "Hold on, maybe did you check your gas? It's starting to, get low. We need to stop for gas." Like, oh, I wasn't even paying attention. I was just, trying to floor it here. So it's the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I think they'll see that as their business grows. Like
Mm.
because I mean, to be an entrepreneur, you want to go 100 right now,
Exactly.
like and you don't want to stop. But sometimes it's important, and I'm a big like advocate of like you don't have to, you do have to work hard, but I would say that you really don't have to work 90 hours a week. You can, if you focused on these the most important things for your business as you grow. That's the exponentiality there. Like an example for me is I am a, I would say that I'm a perfectionist, so I am monitoring those KPIs part of my day, right? So
Yeah.
it takes me about an hour to monitor those, but I always pick, and I don't have a to-do list either. Like I always pick three things that if I did them, my business will go to the next level instead of hammering in like, oh, I have to do this, this, and that. Like just getting back to the, I would say like the on the rat wheel. you know.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
So, so is that something like, how do you deal with that? Like trying to focus in on what's most important with you, Akil?
So I think that's an obstacle with any entrepreneur, like having focus. I think that's something I learned over time. I think there's always so many options, shiny object syndrome. And learning to say no is super important. I always meet people who want to partner. They want different industries, but I think I'm doing a disservice to them and myself every time I have to start up and work on a new business model and figure it out. I think once, like I said, if you find a model that you really enjoy, and B, you can really make the most impact, like really double down on it and just try to ignore the noise.
Mhm.
As easy as it sounds, it really is tough. And but something to add to your point before is like, okay, always ask yourself why you're doing what you're doing, and really start trying to think of making decisions as if this will be for the next 20 years. So, being an entrepreneur, I absolutely love it. I don't think I could have it any other way now. This is all I know, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't go back. But it's also not as easy and as glamorous as people highlight it to be these days, right? It's a lot of work, but I actually love the process. And I think you probably do too. Like if you don't love the process of building, of operating a company and making so many small decisions and every day being so different and dynamic, managing different personalities, the ups and downs of, that comes with it, you have to be, understand that that's part of the game and you have to love the game. It's not just, the end result, right? You're focusing on. Um, so I used to always think like, I said 25-year-olds, I want to think fast. I just think, 6 months,
Mhm.
1 year increments. How's this going to benefit me in the short term? But when I started thinking around making decisions that would be, 20-year decisions, which is really hard, that really helped me, I think, make more sound decisions on, where I invest my money, where I spend my time, and with who I want to spend my time with. Right. So think about, we talked about like making that home, where you want to be, who you want to spend time with, who that
Mhm.
you want to, where you are, all those things you have to think, okay, do I want to be here for the next 20 years? But at the same time, flip side, nothing is forever. You can always change and no one is forcing you to do anything. If you're not enjoying it, and you're not getting that joy every day anymore, like even right now, if you're in a situation where you're like, yeah, I don't love, I wake up every day and I'm dreading it, I'm not enjoying it, like change it. Literally get up and change it today. Don't wait. Like start making a decision. Like this is your life. You only have one. You can change it and get out there and make that change because no one's forcing you to do it. Just remember that.
Yeah, I think that's very important, that because understand that you have the control and the
Exactly.
responsibility
Hmm.
to change what's happening. That's where it begins. And going back to you, like thinking 20 years, so that actually that was impactful for me, because when I started thinking like that,
Mm.
and this is something that people need to learn rather quickly. Let's say that they're trying to, let me do a small example here. Like, let's say
Hmm.
that they want to buy a car, right?
Hmm.
Because this is very very important to me. So let's say that an entrepreneur now, they can afford a car. Let's say they want to get a Nissan GTR, right?
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
have the funds to do it. That's fine. Do whatever you want. However, if you think long term, would you rather, like, if you say, looking, like you said, looking 20 years forward, would you have rather put that as a down payment for one of your real estate investments, or buying an online business for the same amount that could later turn into a few $1 million just alone? Or would you rather just spend this now and forego the opportunity of growing that money, because money is supposed to grow in every chance it gets.
Exactly. And you could do both later on, right? If, it depends where you are at what stage in your life. I
Yeah.
think once you
Yes.
make those long-term investments, once you have the cash, once you've replaced it, you have that freedom of time, of money, and you have the, you're living the life you want. It's like, okay, now I have this extra cash. I've put all these good investments in place. I have everything I
Mm-hmm.
kind of need, and things are working for me. Okay, maybe I can now take a part of that, and I want to enjoy part. You still want to enjoy the short term as well,
Yes.
right? It's like, okay, like, all right, I've earned it. I've worked hard. I'm going to put in the time. I know everything's in set. I could go buy another business, but I'm already going to buy this business. I still have some extra. Maybe I'm going to buy this GTR, right? And that's okay at that point. But if you're struggling and that's all the money you have, and okay, GTR, or I can start building my business. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely go build your business first. Make that cash flow, replace your job, get that freedom, and then think about buying that GTR.
Yeah, and I think that decision making is key for that growth. So, for example, people that are starting out, they see, they're gonna get on their Instagrams, and they're gonna see, like, hey, here in my garage, right? And you're gonna see that, and they have to understand that, in all honesty, that you can't go out and buy a Lamborghini today. You will buy it, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But what's gonna get you there? It's not like you need to build, I would say, vehicles that would allow you to have a constant lifestyle like that, because you might make a big deal, and this happens. There's also like a big deal syndrome, that when you first get a big paycheck, you're like, well, hey, I can now finally, after all, buy my dream whatever. So
Hmm.
but it's important to understand that, like, you need to create consistency in a business that could give you the lifestyle you want, in a prolonged fashion.
Exactly. And like I said, people just focus on the result. They just want that Lamborghini, but they don't want to put the work to get the Lamborghini. And that's why I said you have to love the process of like putting in that work for 5 years, day in, day out, and then you will get that Lamborghini. But you've got to be able to put that work. It's not going to come overnight. Even though they're showing you how easy it is and how they're just showing you the end result, right? The tip of the iceberg, but they don't show
Hmm.
all the hard work and the effort and the grind and the hustle that you've been putting in for the last. It's the same like, you see the Olympics, right? You see people just winning the gold and like, oh, they make it look so easy.
Yes.
They did it so fast, but like they've been training this like every single day, busting their ass, like getting up, eating properly, trainers and coaches, and you don't see all that part, and then they finally show up for the one moment, and that's all you see. So it's the same thing in entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
the moment, the shining moment is a compilation of every
Hmm.
single day, every decision you took. I mean, imagine the thousands, I would say, even, I mean, hundreds of thousands of decisions that were taken daily. So each decision, and we go back to the long term, like, each decision, have you made the right decision, thinking in the right mind, then you will later see those kind of results.
So you use the really important word there, which is your mindset, and I think that is probably the foundation of everything. I think there's all these tactics and strategies people like to focus on. It's like, if I do this, I'm going to get results, but no, focus on yourself, focus on your mindset, and that you have to focus on that first, and then I think everything kind of follows. And then I think so it's a lot of small decisions, like what time do you wake up? What do you do when you wake up? Do you check your phone and check your email? Do you play some games? Are you on Netflix, or do you get up and go for a run? Do you eat some do you make a smoothie? Do you eat some healthy foods? What are the food you put in? So many little small decisions,
Mhm.
but doing that day in day out throughout every single moment, I think that's what adds up, and that's where it gets you the results, right? Like, just like, you want to get in shape. It's not just, okay, going to the gym for 1 week and you're going to get the results. Like, okay, you have to get up every day. You got to put in the time. You got to put in the work at the gym. You got to eat properly. You got to measure all those things. Then you'll get the results. But you've got to do all those little decisions adding up over time. That's where you get the exponential kind of growth.
And I think for young entrepreneurs, even when I was starting, like mindfulness, people don't really think about that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm.
if you really want to grow, it's good to look within, and I'm actually like very spiritual. So to look within, because the answers are there. Like you understand, if you understand how your body works, you understand when you ask it. When you ask it a question, it can almost give you the straight answer most of the time. Like it gives you a feeling. When let's say that you need to invest in a business. Let's say you're getting a bad feeling about it. That bad feeling is, hey, this is not the right turn. This is not the right exit. Just keep going. Right? It tells you where to go.
Trust your gut. Exactly. Your gut is everything and tells you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't ignore it with people, with people, people you're around, people you meet, businesses. Like, you just know something's off. Trust it. It's always been right.
Yeah, and Akil, so I mean, it's been a great show so far, and before we go, I really want to ask you, like, if there was something you could tell entrepreneurs that were starting out, or someone that it's in the pit lane, like someone that's kind of like stopped, or like rethinking their strategies, or like what piece of advice do you consider important for them to keep going and back on that fast lane?
So I think I'll just recommend one book maybe before, and then I can tell you that. So I think for the mindset and routines, I think a good one that really kind of I like to gift a lot, especially for people who are maybe in the early stage and trying to figure stuff out, is the book called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. I don't know if you've heard
Mhm.
that, but I think it just gives you a good framework. I've been doing that kind of simple routine of journaling and all these little things that prime my mind every single day for a couple of years. But I think it's the same thing as just focus. Ask yourself why you're doing what you're doing, and then same thing, like, just focus on what you really want. Why are you doing it? And if you don't feel good about it, like I said, leave it, let it be, and move on. And then just go on that thing that is like, I can do this for 20 years. I know I'm gonna love it. And you only do that by trying it out. So people always think is like, one day when I retire, I'm gonna go spend the next 20 years on the beach. But there's that mindset of like, why don't you go try it for 6 months right now? Don't wait till you're 65. Go try it right now for 3 months, 6 months, 1 month. Test it out, validate it, just like in business. Validate your life, validate your lifestyle, validate where you live, validate your business. Try it out for a month and then make that decision for the next 20 years. There's nothing wrong with it. But
Mhm.
don't wait too long. If you think you want to quit your job and you want to try this one business idea, go just try it. Say, I'm going to focus on this business for 1 month. Guess what? You can always go back to your job. You can always go back and find another job, right? So, don't be
Yes.
afraid to make that risk and try it out. It could surprise you.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's been a great show, Akil. I think people are gonna be inspired by it's like everything you've done, and because I think that you're a person that you value a lot of things in life. I mean, not only entrepreneur, that's your passion, but understanding that your body is your you're using it to you create. You're using your body to create. So building that mindset, building that frame, getting better habits, and just becoming a better person every day, provides you as a return this life full of prosperity.
Exactly. Your body is your vehicle. I mean, I look at myself like, I'm a Tesla, or I'm a Nissan GTR. I was like, okay, I've got to
Yeah.
put good fuel in me. I've got to fine tune my mind. I've got to make sure it's optimized. I've got to put the right plug it into the right station or put some the right gas, and that's how I'll perform a lot better when I'm on the street, right, and ready to drive.
All right, and I mean that's exactly how I look at it. So I feel like if someone was listening to you and they wanted to get a hold of you for for something, or they wanted to network with you, they say Akil's a great guy. I really want to get to know him, or maybe I have business ideas or anything like that. Would you like to share that a way of contacting you?
Sure. Yeah. We also have our own podcast called the SaaS District Show. So if you guys want to check that out, if you're into SaaS, if you want to learn more about that, check that out. Otherwise, if you're just, general entrepreneurship, our YouTube channel, or you can follow me on Twitter at Akeel Jabbar, or LinkedIn. Just hit me up, Akeel Jabbar. Well, I'm pretty active on both.
All right, awesome. So thank you guys so much for listening once again to the Entrepreneur Bootcamp, and it was a very great show. To have a kill, a very powerful session here, and if you, I know you're feeling the vibe, the motivation, to keep moving forward, and I hope you found this content very powerful to you, and you can use it to drive your business. So I really thank you, Akil, for coming on the show, and I'd like to thank everyone listening, and I hope everyone has a great day, and we'll go from there. We'll see you on the other side.